18 U.S. cities where property taxes just exploded. Even seniors are selling, so you thought you were done paying for your house after you paid off the mortgage? That's cute, because property taxes just did something absolutely bonkers across huge swaths of America. We're not talking about your normal 2 or 3% annual increase that you grumble about and then forget. We're talking 34%, 27%, 133% in some Chicago neighborhoods. 133%. That's not a tax increase. That's a mugging. And the people getting hit hardest aren't tech brothers or real estate investors. It's 70-year-old retirees on Social Security who've been in the same house for 40 years and suddenly got a tax bill that's double what they paid last year. And they're doing the math and realizing they can't afford to stay in the home they own outright. Let that sink in for a second. You can own your house free and clear and still get priced out of it by the government deciding your property is suddenly worth way more on paper than it was 12 months ago. Here's what's actually happening. And it's a perfect storm of terrible policy decisions colliding with economic reality. During the pandemic, home prices went absolutely insane. The typical American home gained 30 to 40% in value between 2020 and 2022, which sounds great if you're trying to sell. But most municipalities don't reassess property values every single year. A lot of them do it every 2 to 4 years. Which means all those pandemic-era price increases didn't hit tax bills until 2024, 2025, and now 2026. Homeowners are getting assessment notices right now that reflect peak 2022 pricing, even though in a lot of markets, prices have already cooled off. And here's where it gets really fun. Local governments are desperately broke. Pension obligations are crushing them. Infrastructure is falling apart. Police and fire departments need funding. Schools are demanding more money. So when property values go up on paper, tax assessors see that as free revenue. Except it's not free. It's coming directly out of homeowners' pockets. And for people on fixed incomes, even a 10 or 15% increase can be the difference between staying in their home and having to sell. According to recent data, the average single-family property tax bill in the United States hit $427 in 2025, up 3% from the year before. The effective tax rate nationwide climbed to 0.9%, the highest it's been since 2020, and 92% of major metro areas saw tax increases. This isn't isolated. This is systemic. But the national average hides some absolutely brutal local situations. Because while the average went up 3%, there are cities where it went up 34%. And when you dig into specific neighborhoods, it gets even worse. Let me walk you through 18 cities where property taxes have absolutely exploded, and I'm going to tell you exactly why it's happening and who's getting screwed. Number 18, Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City saw an 8% increase year over year in average property tax bills, which doesn't sound catastrophic until you stack it on top of several years of similar increases. Kansas City's been dealing with the same problem a lot of Midwest cities face: shrinking commercial tax base, aging infrastructure that needs expensive repairs, and a residential property base that's being asked to pick up more and more of the load. If you're a homeowner in Kansas City and your bill went up 8% this year, after going up similar amounts the previous 2 years, you're now paying 20 to 25% more than you were paying 3 years ago on the same house that you already owned. For someone on a fixed retirement income, that's a real problem. Social Security cost of living adjustments don't keep up with that kind of increase. Number 17, Atlanta. Georgia. Atlanta's effective tax rate surged over 15% year over year, one of the steepest jumps among major metros. What makes Atlanta interesting is this is supposed to be a boom town. People are moving there. The economy's growing. So why are property taxes exploding? Because growth costs money. All those new residents need schools and roads and water systems. And a lot of that infrastructure investment is getting funded through property tax increases on existing homeowners. The people who've been in Atlanta for decades are essentially subsidizing the cost of rapid growth that's making their neighborhoods more expensive and congested. It's a bad deal all around. Number 16, Philadelphia. Pennsylvania. Philadelphia has an effective tax rate of 1.41%, which puts it in the top 5 nationally, and rates are climbing. Philadelphia's problem is it's an old city with very old infrastructure and massive pension obligations. The city's been struggling financially for years, and property taxes keep going up to try to fill budget holes. If you're a senior homeowner in Philadelphia, you might qualify for some exemptions. But those programs are complicated and a lot of people don't know about them or don't know how to apply. So they just keep paying higher and higher bills until they can't anymore. Number 15. Cleveland. Ohio. Cleveland's effective tax rate sits at 1.63%. The city's been losing population for decades, which means fewer people to share the tax burden. Cleveland's a textbook case of the Rust Belt death spiral. People leave. Property values fall in some areas, but taxes stay high or go up to compensate for the shrinking base. More people leave, repeat. For seniors who bought homes in Cleveland in the 70s or 80s, when it was still a thriving industrial city, watching their tax bills climb while their neighborhood declines is brutal. Number 14. Buffalo. New York. Buffalo has an effective tax rate of 1.73%, third highest in the nation among major metros. Buffalo's another legacy industrial city dealing with all the same problems as Cleveland. Add in New York State's generally high tax environment, and you've got a recipe for homeowners getting squeezed from every direction. The saving grace for some seniors in New York is there are property tax exemption programs if you know about them and jump through all the bureaucratic hoops to qualify. But that's a big if. Number 13. Newark. New Jersey. Newark sits in New Jersey, which has the highest property tax rates in the entire country at 2.23% statewide. New Jersey's property tax situation is so bad it's become a political issue. That drives people out of the state. You can own a modest house in New Jersey and be paying $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a year in property taxes. Newark specifically deals with high crime, aging infrastructure, and a commercial base that's been declining for years, all of which means residential homeowners are carrying most of the tax burden. For seniors in Newark, the property taxes alone can eat up a huge chunk of their fixed income, even before factoring in everything else. Number 12. Rochester. New York. Rochester has the highest effective property tax rate in the country among major metros, at 1.82%. Rochester's economy has been struggling since Kodak and Xerox declined. The city's been trying to reinvent itself, but that takes time and money. In the meantime, property taxes keep climbing. An average home in Rochester generates way more in annual property taxes than the same valued home. Wouldn't most of the rest of the country? That's a real affordability problem, especially for people on fixed incomes. Number 11. Minneapolis. Minnesota. Minnesota as a state is projecting property tax increases of $948 million over 2025 levels, a 6.9% jump statewide. Minneapolis has been one of the more expensive metros in the Midwest for property taxes, and it's getting worse. The state legislature has been trying to cap increases for seniors, but those programs are means tested and a lot of people don't qualify. If you're a senior in Minneapolis and you don't qualify for the exemption programs, you're looking at year-over-year increases that are outpacing your cost of living adjustments from Social Security. Number 10. Detroit. Michigan. Detroit's property tax situation is complicated because the city went bankrupt and is still recovering. But what's happening in Detroit is neighborhoods are seeing wildly uneven tax treatment. Some areas are getting reassessed way up, others are staying stagnant, and the system feels arbitrary and unfair to a lot of homeowners. For seniors who stayed in Detroit through the worst of the decline and are now seeing their taxes climb as the city tries to recover financially, it feels like getting punished for loyalty. Number 9. Houston. Texas. Houston saw a 10% increase in average property tax bills year over year. 10%. Texas has no state income tax, which sounds great until you realize they make up for it with property taxes and sales taxes. Houston's been growing fast, which means infrastructure costs are climbing, and property values have been rising. Hurricane recovery costs from recent storms have also driven up infrastructure needs, which means rate increases. Homeowners are getting hit with higher appraisals and higher rates at the same time. Texas did over 2 million property tax protests recently, more than any other state. That tells you how angry homeowners are about this situation. Number 8. San Antonio. Texas San Antonio is in a similar boat to Houston. Texas property taxes are high, and they keep climbing. The state did increase homestead exemptions for 2026, which helped some people. But even with the increased exemptions, a lot of homeowners are still seeing their bills go up because appraisals are climbing faster than the exemptions can offset. For seniors, Texas offers an additional $10,000 exemption and a school tax freeze at the age you turn 65. But that only applies to school taxes, not county or city taxes, which can still increase. Number 7. Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. Dallas area suburbs like Frisco, McKinney, and Prosper are seeing some of the steepest appraisal increases in Texas. Home values jumped 8 to 12% in 2025 in some areas, and tax bills followed. The thing about rapid growth areas is your property value going up sounds nice, until you realize it just means you owe more in taxes on a house you already owned and weren't planning to sell. For retirees in these areas, watching their tax bills climb by hundreds or thousands of dollars a year, while they're on fixed income, is forcing some of them to sell and move to cheaper areas, or cheaper states entirely. Number 6. Austin. Texas. Austin's property tax situation is particularly brutal because home values there went absolutely insane during the pandemic and are still elevated. Travis County saw average home values jump 8 to 12% in 2025, even after the market cooled from pandemic peaks. Combined with rate increases, homeowners are getting hammered. Austin used to be affordable. That was kind of the whole point of Austin. Now it's expensive to buy, expensive to rent, and expensive to own even if you bought years ago, because the property taxes keep going up. Number 5. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis saw an 11% increase in average property tax bills year over year. St. Louis has been struggling economically for decades. Population loss, crime, declining commercial base, and property taxes on remaining homeowners keep going up to try to maintain city services. For seniors in St. Louis, especially in neighborhoods that have been declining, paying higher and higher property taxes while their home values aren't actually increasing in the real market feels deeply unfair. Number 4. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore saw a 27% increase in average property tax bills year over year. 27%. Let me say that again. If your property tax bill in Baltimore was $4,000 last year, it's now over $5,000. For the same house, that's $1,500 more dollars you have to come up with every year. Baltimore's dealing with crime, population loss, and financial mismanagement that's been going on for decades. The city's broke, and they're trying to squeeze more revenue out of residential property owners because there's nowhere else to get it. For seniors on Social Security in Baltimore, a 27% property tax increase is potentially catastrophic. That could be the difference between staying in your home and having to sell. Number 3. Memphis. Tennessee. Memphis takes the crown for the single largest year-over-year increase among major metros. 34%. 34%. That's not a tax increase. That's a different tax entirely. What happened in Memphis is a perfect storm of reassessments hitting all at once, combined with rate increases to fund city services. Homeowners who were used to paying $2,000 a year in property taxes suddenly got bills for $2,700. For people on tight budgets, especially retirees, that's $700 they don't have. And it's not a one-time thing. It's every year forever unless rates come back down, which they probably won't. Number 2. Cook County, Illinois. Chicago area. Chicago deserves special recognition because what happened there is one of the most egregious examples of shifting tax burden from commercial to residential that you'll find anywhere in the country. The median residential property tax bill in Chicago jumped 16.7% in 1 year. That's the largest single-year increase on record for the city. But it gets way worse in specific neighborhoods. West Garfield Park saw median bills more than double, rising from $1,480 to $3,448. That's a 133% increase. North Lawndale saw similar. Median bills went from $1,905 to $3,791. And here's the kicker. This happened because the Cook County Board of Review cut commercial property values by nearly 20%, which shifted about $500 million in tax burden onto residential homeowners. So if you're a homeowner in one of these neighborhoods, you're not paying more because your house is worth more or because city services improved. You're paying more because downtown office buildings got a tax break and you got stuck with the bill. For seniors in these neighborhoods who've been there for decades, many of whom are living on Social Security that's under $2,000 a month, getting a property tax bill that went up $1,000 or $1,500 in a single year is an existential crisis. Number 1. All of New Jersey. I'm putting the entire state of New Jersey at number 1 because it deserves it. New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the nation. The average effective rate is 2.23%. A $400,000 home in New Jersey generates almost $9,000 a year in property taxes. $9,000 every single year. Forever. And it's not just high. It keeps going up, year after year. Local governments in New Jersey are addicted to property tax revenue, and homeowners have no escape except to leave the state. New Jersey does have programs for seniors. The Senior Freeze program reimburses seniors for property tax increases above their base year if they qualify based on income. But the income limits are strict, the application process is complicated, and a lot of people who could benefit don't even know the program exists. For seniors in New Jersey who don't qualify for relief programs, property taxes can easily eat up a quarter or more of their fixed income. That's unsustainable, and is forcing people out of homes they've lived in for decades. So what's the bigger picture here? Property taxes are one of the most regressive forms of taxation we have. They're based on the value of an asset you own, not on your ability to pay, which means someone on a fixed income of $30,000 a year pays the same property tax as someone making $300,000 a year if they own similar houses. For seniors especially, this creates a trap. Their home is usually their biggest asset, but it's not liquid. They can't pay their property taxes with home equity unless they sell or take out a reverse mortgage, both of which come with major downsides. And the problem is getting worse as more municipalities face budget crunches. Pension obligations are crushing local governments across the country. Infrastructure is aging and needs expensive repairs. Tax bases are shrinking in a lot of older cities. The easy political move is to raise property taxes. It's less visible than income or sales taxes. And homeowners can't easily escape it without selling and moving, which most people are reluctant to do, especially if they're older. Here's what you actually need to know if you're dealing with skyrocketing property taxes. First, appeal your assessment. Seriously, 30 to 60% of property tax appeals succeed, but only 5% of homeowners actually file them. If you think your assessment is too high compared to similar homes in your area, you have a right to challenge it. Second, look into exemption programs. Almost every state has some kind of property tax relief for seniors, veterans, or people with disabilities. The programs are complicated and the applications can be a pain, but they can save you thousands of dollars a year. Third, understand that this is only going to get worse. Municipal budget problems aren't going away. Pension obligations aren't shrinking. Infrastructure isn't getting cheaper to maintain. Property taxes are going to keep climbing in most places. Fourth, if you're a senior on a fixed income and your property taxes are eating up a significant chunk of your budget, you need to make a hard decision. Can you actually afford to stay in your current home long term? Or do you need to sell while you still have equity and move somewhere cheaper? That's a brutal question to have to ask after living somewhere for 30 or 40 years. But ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Property tax explosions are forcing people out of homes they own outright. That's the headline. And it's happening to the exact people who can least afford it. Retirees on Social Security. People who paid off their mortgages decades ago and thought they were done with big housing payments. People who've lived in the same neighborhood their entire adult lives and are now being priced out by local governments desperate for revenue. The system is broken. Municipalities are trapped between massive obligations they can't afford and tax bases that can't sustain the burden. Homeowners are caught in the middle. And seniors are getting crushed because they don't have the option of earning more money to offset the increases. There's no easy solution. Cutting services means worse schools and roads and public safety. Raising taxes means pricing people out of their homes. It's a lose-lose. But what's happening right now? Where some neighborhoods are seeing tax bills double in a single year. Because commercial property got a break. That's not sustainable and it's not fair. So here's my question for you. If you're a homeowner, have your property taxes gone up significantly in the last few years? And if you're a senior or know someone who is, are property taxes becoming a real burden? Let me know in the comments. And if this is hitting close to home for you, share this video with other people in your area who might be dealing with the same thing. You're not alone in this. Subscribe if you want more brutally honest takes on housing and economic trends that actually affect normal people. I'll see you in the next one.